So I grew up cooking with my great-grandma, my Lula Apion. She lived with us like our entire life. So I really learned just kind of like, being at eye level with the countertop, like trying to help them. Actually, I think I was forced into helping cooking. I didn't really get into it fully on my own probably until I was in my 20s. When because we used to cook together a lot.
Yeah.
We used to cook together a lot. Some of the recipes that we have on the site are actually some of the recipes that, we started out cooking, like the Kung Pao chicken was like, that was one of the first recipes that, trial and error that we learned.
Yeah, back then it was the freewheeling days of the internet where blogs were just starting out and you didn't really know what you were doing.
Yeah.
And you're just, I'm just going to cook whatever I want.
How did you guys handle not having a kitchen for a significant period of time?
Well, I am an extreme planner. So we created, I did all of my research on how do people live without a kitchen, what can you do? And thank goodness for things like the Instant Pot and air fryer.
Right.
We had a toaster oven so the kids could still have their pizza. But it was...
we had one sort of burner,
Yeah.
an electric burner that we plugged in as well.
Yes,
And
which
that
I use for work, so
Yeah.
we already had it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of kept us going, between that and the toaster oven and the microwave. And we just sort of set up a little camp by the fireplace over there.
And this room was the kitchen.
Yeah.
So like everything was put in here. And it's an older house, so some of the electrical isn't as great as so we were worried about like having, we tried to make sure we weren't using the toaster oven the same time we were using the air fryer and things like that. But yeah, we just had tables set up here. And then this was our temporary kitchen. We loved this house, right? Like we thought it was an amazing house. The only thing was the kitchen, which was tiny.
Yeah.
So, which was, I think, typical of that time when this was built, right? Like in the early 90s.
Right.
This was the kitchen right here. And then this is kind of where this beam is, that's where it ended. And then this right here was a formal dining room. And then we had, this was like a separate, what was this? Living room?
It was like a sitting room sort of thing.
Yeah. It was a sitting room. We called it the parlor.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
No one really used it.
Because nobody used it. The kids would just come in and throw their backpacks in, and that's pretty much all that room was used for.
There's another issue with the wall being here was that it ended up making both rooms very dark. Like the dining room was dark and then the kitchen was dark because you didn't have the light coming in from here.
Yeah.
So when we opened it up, suddenly you had all this natural light.
Yeah.
Well, it was a swinging door, and there was no window, so you didn't know if someone was behind it when you opened it. So it was a lot of like banging into people, and so it was just really impractical.
And we have 2 kids and a dog, and it was just chaos.
Yeah.
So especially if somebody were cooking at that time, because there was a nice sized island right here. And then that fridge, which is huge and we love it, was here. So when you would open the fridge, it would bang right into the island. And like there couldn't be 2 of us in the kitchen at the same time.
Yeah, it was just a huge
bottleneck. Were you doing your cooking and vlogging and blogging and all that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Attempting to. That was the other thing. We didn't really have a lot of counter space, and I need a lot of counter space for what I do.
80s, 90s, like disconnect the dining
Very
from the
much.
kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you wanted to bring sort of that interaction that we have now where it's kitchen and dining.
Yeah. And we like to entertain a lot. We like to have our friends and family over, and I have a pretty big family, so, and we all cook together. So it's kind of chaos sometimes. My brother has 6 kids, my parents live close by, so this space now is perfect for like holidays and everything that we were looking for.
I think what we liked was that Gina was constantly pushing us and second guessing, ourselves. Does this feel right to you? And she would keep coming in and sort of measuring things. And I'm not sure this is going to be enough space for you. So she was really making sure that we had what we needed to make the kitchen work for us. And I think that's what we really appreciated.
It was very much like she wanted to make sure we got it right for what we needed.
That balanced sense of urgency that like, we're going to do this project eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also need to take the time methodically get there.
Oh, it was like fun, right? It was fun but overwhelming.
It was overwhelming because it was a long design process from what I remember because we went back and forth on what kind of island do we want? How do we want it configured? We don't want the traffic jam. And I think initial designs had, I think, 2 islands. There was going to be one
Yes.
here
Yeah.
and then one here.
Yeah.
And the more we looked at it, we're like, is there going to be like too much back and forth? And then we shifted everything around and almost had Gina start from scratch and said, what if we just did one long island? And that seemed to click. And we're like, yeah, let's do that.
This works so much better than
Right.
what we originally were thinking.
Yeah. This is, I think, beyond anything that we'd sort of imagined. In our head, we thought, yeah, it's going to be a big island, whatever.
Yeah.
But once you see it in place, we're like, that's a pretty big island.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really did meet all the needs. We have all the space we need to do all the prep.
But that was the other thing, because it's like, oh, we're designing our own kitchen. I could make things more to my level, but then it's like, if we're going to sell a house,
Right.
Yeah,
they're going to come in and be like,
Right.
what
Is
hobbit lived
everything
here?
structured?
But you'll see, we've got, step stools everywhere. So watch out for those as you're walking around.
I think there were also certain design decisions that we just made for ease of use. I mean, we have these very flat, glossy cabinets because they're really easy to clean.
Okay.
Food doesn't get caught in them, and
Yeah.
you don't see sort of the marks that you can see in other cabinets.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I just say?
Yeah.
A lot of people worry, I think, about the glossy cabinets. They're like,
Yeah.
don't they get dirty? I'm like, you have
Like-
no idea how easy they are
Yeah.
to clean.
Yeah, you just wipe them down.
Yeah, because we used to have the ones, I can't even remember, with the little, the wood ones with the, what do you call it?
So the grooves were in them, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and those would get so dusty and so dirty so fast.
I think Gina was actually really adamant about not doing a completely white kitchen, right? Because then it can be
Yes.
really
Right.
washed out. So she was like, you want the contrast with the sort of the brown gray cabinets on the bottom and just some of the other accents in here, which I think really helped. But overall, the
Yeah.
white really helps showcase like the food photography, right?
Right.
Because there's no dark branding
contrast.
getting in the way. Yeah, stuff like that.
We had an idea of what we wanted,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
knew how we worked in the kitchen, but she was great about asking questions, right?
Yep.
Like, how do you do this? How are you going to do that? What's your daily routine? The way we did the layout, it is amazing how much it makes sense in our everyday cooking. Having the 2 sinks is huge for us. Like, I even think we were thinking about doing the pasta, the water spout, that comes out of here.
Yeah.
And then we went with the 2 sinks, and it's huge, especially, I mean, not just for everyday cooking, because, kids can be at one sink, we can be at the other. But also just when I'm working on a recipe, we can have everything laid out, and then somebody, Alan, can be doing the dishes at one sink, and getting all that ready. So it just, the layout, it made sense at the time, but like every day we're grateful for how easy it is to get around the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, there's small things that Gina and Alyssa just proposed that it didn't even occur to us, like having like pull-out trash cans. And there's one by every sink, and it makes it really easy as you're prepping. Instead of having to like take the stuff and open a trash can, you just kind of like sweep it from the counter to the sink, and that just saves so much time.
Yeah.
And it's like now it's like common sense, right? But back then you don't even think about it. If you don't know about it, you're like, oh my God, you can do that? This is great.
There's a lot of choices out there, and we had no idea how many choices.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
There's more today, by the way.
Oh, I bet there are.
Yeah. Well, we're not redoing our kitchen for a while.
Yeah, I think we're done. We're
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for a while.
Yeah. This is probably one of our favorites, is the pot and pan holder. Like, we wouldn't have even thought about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, yes, I would love that.
The previous kitchen, they just had sort of these big pull-out drawers. And whenever you would open the drawers and close them, the plates would sort of smash into each other, and they would get all chipped. So
It
Gina
was
suggested,
bad.
how about these floating shelves, and you can just put the plates on there, and there's no, like, banging back and forth. It gives us more storage, and it's kind of like a nice aesthetic. So.
Yeah.
Right, and it's
really
those, stuff that we use every day. I would just say it's a million times easier to create content in this kitchen setup than it was in the last one. I mean, the last one took so much longer. It was just like a struggle to create, to even just working on the recipes and putting all the ingredients together. And here we have so much space to, set out all of the ingredients, do all of the mise en place and all of the prep work. And to have more than one person in the kitchen, is a huge, huge help.